Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Akam. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. We have a lot to cover, and we're going to hear from Connor Zilic. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He actually has a race each day this weekend up at Watkins Glen. Triple duty. Friday's Bully Hill Vineyards 176, at the Glen. NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race. And Saturday's Mission 200 at the Glen NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. And as a side note, this will be his first truck race of the 2026 season. He's just 19 years old from Mooresville, North Carolina. If you recall, he's teammate to Shane Van Gisbergen, the 2025 Go Bowling at the Glen race winner, as well as Ross Chastain, whose first career Cup Series win came on a road course at Circuit of the Americas in Austin. So we're going to hear from him. Just a quick little, there was a media availability yesterday, just a quick little 2-minute interview, if you will. Also, I haven't had a chance to promote this because it wasn't set in stone yet, and I think you'll be excited. On tomorrow's broadcast, we're going to be talking with Chris Malpas of the Malpas Brothers. We talked to him not that long ago. Well, they have a new, it's amazing, the track list anyway, gospel album coming out. We're going to hear all about that. And then next week, we're going to interview his brother, Taylor Malpas, to tell you all about that gospel album. Okay, first, we start with a viewer comment. This came right in at the end of the program yesterday. Didn't have a chance to bring it up. There was some back and forth between viewers. This viewer writes, I wasn't happy with Biden, but never wanted him to die or the country to fail. Democrats want to be in power no matter the cost to America. And that was in reference to a viewer writing in and suggesting that he wanted to see Trump fail. Now, my original question, though, was, do you want to see us fail in Iran? But it was kind of changed to just Trump. So there is your first comment of the day. Big night for Trump yesterday. Trump-backed candidates take out the GOP incumbents in Indiana, and they dominated in the Ohio primary. President Trump proved to be a kingmaker in the Indiana and Ohio Republican primaries last night, where his seal of approval propelled several GOP candidates to landslide victories. In Indiana, Trump's revenge campaign, and many in the media, and this is even coming from a more pro-Trump resource, but revenge is the term that they're using. The revenge campaign against incumbent state senators who torpedoed his push last year to redraw Indiana's state congressional boundaries was largely successful, with the president's preferred candidates winning 5 of the 6 contests. A potential 6th victory for a Trump-endorsed candidate was still too close to call as of last night and as of this reporting. Senator Jim Banks said in a statement, everyone in Indiana politics should have learned an important lesson today. President Trump is the single most popular Republican among Hoosier voters. Indiana is a conservative state, and we deserve conservatives in our state Senate who have a pulse on Republican voters. Indiana Republican Governor Mike Braun, who staunchly supported the failed redistricting effort, called it a historic night for Indiana, saying, quote, Republicans stood with me and President Trump to nominate some great America First conservatives. I look forward to winning big in November and serving Hoosiers with this team in the State House. And they were decisive. The victories by Trump-backed candidates were decisive. Trevor D. Vries topped Indiana State Senator Dan Dernlick by a 75%. You heard me right. Pardon me. Almost got coughing. I was laughing. 75% to 24% margin. Tracy Powell beat State Senator Jim Buck in a 65% to 35% race. And Brian Schmutzer and Michelle Davis defeated State Senators Linda Rogers and Greg Walker, respectively, by an 18-point margin. The first incumbent taken out by Trump was longtime Indiana State Senator Travis Holdman, who has been in office since 2008 and is a member of Indiana Senate leadership. So kind of the swamp at the state level as well. And Trump-backed candidates took them out. I'm sure someone like Mr. Holdman, State Senator Holdman, felt that he was secure, being there since 2008, when he made that decision not to endorse the redistricting. Holdman was bested, again, Holdman been there since 2008, was bested by Blake Feicher by a 61 to 39% margin. At press time, Indiana State Senator Greg Good was the only incumbent opposed to redistricting who was able to fend off a Trump-backed primary challenge. Good defeated Brenda Wilson, where a third Republican candidate in the race received about 10% of the vote. So you had kind of that spoiler in there. The White House had actually pressured Alexandra Wilson, the spoiler, to get out of the race, reportedly over concerns her candidacy would confuse voters attempting to cast ballots for Brenda Wilson. Before the results started rolling in, Trump took to Truth Social saying, "Good luck to those great Indiana Senate candidates who are running against people who couldn't care less about our country or about keeping the majority in Congress." He decried the incumbents opposed to redistricting as long-seated rhinos. Trump-backed challengers spent over $10 million as part of the effort to remake the Indiana State House. Wow. Meanwhile, I think we'll have a lot of people excited about this one. Meanwhile, in Ohio, remember this name? Vivek Ramaswamy easily waltzed, if you will, to victory over business owner Casey Putsch in the GOP primary for governor. Ramaswamy entered the gubernatorial race in his home state as the frontrunner after securing endorsements from Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, keep in mind, J.D. Vance, a former Ohio senator. And this was for the Ohio gubernatorial race. On Tuesday night, Ramaswamy said, we're going to revive the American dream in Ohio once again with lower costs, bigger paychecks, and better schools for all Ohioans. The former 2024 GOP presidential primary candidate will take on Democrat Dr. Amy Acton in the November general election, which polls show could be a close race. Down ballot, Senator John Husted, the Republican, who ran unopposed in the special election Senate race, is now set to square off against former Senator Sherrod Brown, who marks one of the Democrats' best hopes of flipping a seat in the upper chamber. An anti-Trump Democrat attorney general candidate who vowed to, quote, kill Trump if elected, was also rejected by Ohio voters. Former state lawmaker Elliot Foran lost his Democrat primary bid months after causing a stir for threatening that he was, quote, going to kill Donald Trump by securing a legal conviction against the president, resulting in a sentence duly executed of capital punishment. You remember that? We brought it up at the time. So a big win for Trump-backed candidates in that primary yesterday. Vivek Ramaswamy, that's exciting that he's back at the forefront. I know we had a lot of people rooting for him way back to even be perhaps a vice presidential candidate. Now, the Republican Governors Association released a statement last night saying congratulations to Vivek Ramaswamy on his victory. Vivek's promise to Ohio families is simple: lower costs, bigger paychecks, and a world-class education for Ohio's kids. He has spent his career turning bold ideas into real results and stands ready to make Ohio the best place to live, work, and raise a family. Ohio families have seen the disastrous results of Amy Acton's progressive leadership. Acton will treat taxpayers like an open checkbook, implementing the same failed tax and spend policies that led to crushing inflation and smaller paychecks. Now, how did they look at this? And by the way, we can go through all this in depth. I'm just kind of giving you the breaking news this morning. I may bring it back up in the 7 o'clock hour for those that missed it. But if you want to weigh in on it, we also have quite a few updates I need to get to. And let me tell you, big news coming out of New York just across the board, whether it's the budget, which is still not in, whether it's that new poll out, talking Siena poll about how New Yorkers feel. Now, whatever you think about polls, it's still worth mentioning. Got a couple updates on Blakeman, climate change, all of that. But what did CNN, far left CNN, say about yesterday? Because remember, even in that race, where was it now? You know, we talked so many topics on here. A Democrat lost, and CNN's takeaway was it was still a big night for Democrats because, yes, they lost, but not by as much as we thought they would. Remember that? That's how they slant things. So it's always a big night for Democrats. How do they do this? Now, this isn't a primary, so this is a little bit different. How do they handle this? Well, according to Eric Bradner from CNN, Trump gets revenge. He vowed revenge when the Republican supermajority in the Indiana State Senate embarrassed him in December. Boy, these reek of bias, don't they? Voting down Trump's demands to redraw the state's congressional map. Well, he got his revenge. At least 5 of the 7 Trump-endorsed challengers. Okay, so we have a difference of opinion here. We've heard 5 or 6. Now we hear 7. Defeated GOP incumbent state senators who broke with the president. Those senators said at the time that they are following the will of their constituents, but after millions of dollars in advertising and outsized attention on ordinary low-key state legislative primary races, Tuesday served as a reminder that all politics, no matter how local, can be nationalized. Interesting way of putting that. How they're trying to downplay why they lost. Okay. Prior to Election Day, Indiana Lieutenant Governor Mika Beckwith, a staunch Trump supporter who has butted heads with Republican leadership in the state Senate, where he presides, and who campaigned with the challengers, had said the pro-Trump forces winning at least 3 races would make a statement. It's better than I expected, he said in an interview. It was really that battle between the old school Republicans of the Mitch Daniels, Mike Pence, George Bush era versus Donald Trump and the America First era. And Indiana, at least the Republicans, are saying we want to be the America First party. So some of the takeaways that CNN had, it's still Trump's party. That comes as no surprise, no matter how they try to spin it. We see the poll numbers. We know that MAGA is still with them. They should be embarrassed. CNN should be embarrassed with that takeaway that it's still Trump's party. Because how many times did we hear that MAGA is turning on Trump? MAGA is all done with Trump. How many times? I mean, I bring it up on the show constantly. It's CNN, it's elsewhere, and it's over every little thing that MAGA has done. And then they go for those kind of wackadoo, fringe people that once supported Trump that now don't, like Tucker Carlson, who has made a career out of doing whatever is best for Tucker Carlson. And they point to those people who I think the reason their soapbox is so big because CNN and places like that can use them to denigrate and to belittle MAGA, but I'll continue. If the Indiana Senate's rejection of Trump's push for redistricting in December revealed that his influence has limits, the outcome of Tuesday night's primaries demonstrated that for Republican voters, it's still Trump's party. Trump endorsed challengers to 7 Republican incumbents who voted against redistricting. 5 of them are winners, with 1 too close to call. Only 1 incumbent, as we mentioned, Greg Hood, was victorious. Senator Spency Deary, a West Lafayette Republican who was locked in a tight race with challenger Paul Copenhagen, said, "The truth is, I know that Trump doesn't really have any idea who I am or any idea who my opponent is." Maybe so, but the president and his political allies flooded the ordinary sleepy state legislative primaries, where the spending is typically in the tens of thousands and primary votes cast numbers around 10 to 12,000, with millions of dollars in advertising, casting the incumbents as disloyal to Trump and blaming them for voters' various frustrations, particularly property taxes. Trump's approval rating has slipped nationally, and his support among independents has evaporated. But very conservative voters, those who make up his base, are still with him. Really? CNN? I thought you told us over and over again that that was not the case. By the way, there was a time when I was on radio that I was in the greater Lafayette area. I had a radio show broadcast in the greater Lafayette area. Boy, that would have been a fun time to be still on the air, wouldn't it? With those kind of races happening in Indiana. I wonder how the advertising dollars. Anyway, Deary said, Trump is perhaps not as popular in my district as he once was, but he is still overwhelmingly popular. What else were the takeaways from CNN? Skyrocketing spending in Indiana contests. So they're going to try to play it all on the spending. Now the GOP's redistricting race speeds up. Emboldened by the Supreme Court ruling last week, further gutting the Voting Rights Act, were scrambling to redraw their congressional maps. This is interesting because they pretend that this is Republicans only doing it. We have, and I have a piece here later we may get to, but leading Democrats at the nationwide level pushing for New York to redistrict, even get rid of the independent redistricting committee. So again, proving that they are defending democracy by disenfranchising voters and gerrymandering. Interesting. They seem to have no problem with being hypocrites. Now the stage is set in the key Ohio races, as we talked about. Exciting about Vivek Ramaswamy. But now, just because they had to get one in for good measure, a big Democratic win in Michigan. Okay? Democrats' overperformance in special elections. In a state Senate special election, crucial to Democrats' hope of keeping their slim majority, Democrat nominee Chedrick Green coasted past Republican Jason Tunney. Results were still being counted, but the big margin stood out compared to the district's 2024 presidential results. It was swing territory, with Harris winning by less than a percentage point in that portion of the battleground state that's certain to be at the center of the 2028 presidential race. So it's in a district, and it's a statewide, not federal. Statewide, a Democrat won a district that Kamala Harris won, and it's a big win in Michigan. The two outcomes aren't necessarily at odds. Trump retains his support among the most conservative voters, the kind that vote in a reliably red state primary, but overall Democrats animated by opposition to Trump's presidency are more energized and are improving on their previous margins in a long string of special elections across the country. The tensions between the two realities might not be fully on display until closer to the midterms in November. Yada, yada, yada. There you go. That's enough on that. We can talk more about it, though. Please weigh in. But we've obviously running late. But I've got a couple quick updates. Just a couple things I want to bring to your attention. We are going to talk about Cornell. If you have not heard, right down the road in Cornell, what happened the other day. We'll be talking about that. Marco Rubio, New York State. Oh, there's so much to get to. Stay with us. We're just getting started, and we're already running late. That's a good sign. We'll be right back.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Accident. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's works with all insurance companies and will manage all vehicle calibrations. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business.
Will Tar has earned a reputation for being a straight shooter.
Because I am a straight shooter.
For being honest.
Here's what we're willing to pay.
Because I am honest.
For winning a lot.
Because we win a lot.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Matar. Visit WilliamMatar.com.
Hello there. We're shaping up to have a wet and cool Wednesday. Temperatures staying a good 10 degrees below average with a high of 57 and showers throughout much of the day. Then overnight, we'll see most of the rain taper off by, say, 9 p.m. or so, with temperatures bottoming out in the mid and upper 30s. Staying cool for our Thursday, upper 50s, additional showers possible in the afternoon. We'll see more rain chances as we head through Mother's
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. What a beautiful view of historic Market Street in the heart of the Gaffer District. We are back, also in the heart of the Gaffer District, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Trump won't fail, and the left knows it. That's why they hate him so much. Only the left fails. Even the laws of biology and common sense make that clear. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Rubio addressed the situation at the Strait wonderfully. I definitely see a presidential glow to him. Yes, and it's interesting. The media is definitely hyping that up. I don't know if you saw it, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I think it's worth mentioning that they keep highlighting Marco Rubio's kind of, what's the word I want? Meme fame, with those pictures of him doing all those various jobs. And then we had those reports coming out that he played DJ over the weekend, and they kind of love those things. Though some are upset because he was photographed. Have you heard this? Posed in front of a map of Cuba with a U.S. commander. The photograph has sparked panic. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has posed in front of a map of Cuba alongside a U.S. general as Donald Trump sends his biggest sign yet. He intends to invade Cuba soon. Rubio made the symbolic statement on Tuesday as he shook hands with the commander of the United States Southern Command, General Francis Donovan, alongside a prominent reference map of Cuba during the 2026 Heads of Mission Conference held in Doral, Florida, right? Anyway, but that's not why I mentioned it. I just saw that this morning. But to that viewer's point, Secretary Marco Rubio's DJ style was on full display at the White House briefing room yesterday, as he even quoted some rap lyrics as he filled in for Carolyn Levitt. And I think this is probably, I'm assuming that's what the viewer was referencing, is this press conference press briefing. He did do a very good job. And I know some people have speculated in the media not speculated, but have questioned why J.D. Vance has been kind of out of the limelight lately. But I'll continue. Rubio tore into Iran's leadership as insane in the brain, which is a nod to the Cypress Hill classic, Insane in the Membrane. And much like Ice Cube, Rubio warned Iran should check themselves before they wreck themselves. Rubio, who also serves as President Trump's national security advisor, has a long-standing habit of incorporating rap and hip-hop lyrics into his public remarks. This marked at least his third time this year. He's become an online sensation, thanks to the memes that pop up depicting him carrying out various jobs. Videos of him mixing it up at a wedding this weekend went viral online. But Rubio wouldn't entertain the idea of a career change. He said, "You're not even ready for my DJ name." The Secretary of State was the first Trump administration official to substitute for Levitt in the briefing room. Of course, Levitt is on maternity leave, but the White House plans a regular rotation of officials. Think of how transparent, for just a second, this administration is, where Carolyn Levitt's on maternity leave, and they don't find kind of her assistant or something like that to fill in and, kind of work the kinks out, if you will. No, they say, you know what, we're going to put the leading members of the Trump cabinet in rotation so that we can be as transparent as possible. Could you imagine that? I mean, we saw how bad Biden's press secretary was. He might have been better off following the same rotation, but you would never see that. In this scenario, there's a much easier route, a much less transparent route to take. And yet the Trump administration said, let's do this the right way for the American people. The small briefing room was packed to the gills. Reporters crowded into the aisles, pushing and yelling as they tried to get Rubio's attention, shouting and hand-waving. It was intense. Rubio said, "This is crazy," and he called the room chaos. But for all the chaos, he stayed in command. When one reporter said he had two questions, did you hear about this? So one reporter, of typical, I've done it myself, where they'll say, "Oh, 2 questions, sir." Rubio said, "You can ask me 2 questions. I'll give you 1 answer, and I'll pick the one I like better." And he wasn't fazed by the noise, staying on message when it came to Iran, reiterating points that the Strait of Hormuz must be fully reopened and that Tehran cannot have a nuclear weapon. He also proclaimed that Operation Epic Fury is over and that the U.S. focus was on Project Freedom. The operation is over. We're done with that stage of it. Okay, we're now on to this Project Freedom. Project Freedom, in the administration's code for its efforts to reopen the critical strait, he said, and it's a defensive operation, not an offensive. This is not an offensive operation. This is a defensive operation. What that means is very simple, is there's no shooting unless we're shot at first. Rubio also said everybody needs to think about it this way. If Iran had a nuclear weapon and they decided to close the straits and make our gas prices like $9 a gallon, $8 a gallon, we wouldn't be able to do anything about it because they have a nuclear weapon. A nuclear-armed Iran could do whatever the heck they want with the straits, and there's nothing anyone could do about it. He also shrugged off a question that talks could take a while given Iran's high pain tolerance. He said, "You're right, they have a high pain threshold, but they don't have an unlimited pain threshold." So Marco Rubio, your thoughts? Is he making his moves? Will he be the candidate for president, There's still J.D. Vance. I mean, J.D. Vance should be the favorite, just being vice president. But boy, and I know I keep saying this, and people disagree with me. It just always makes me a little concerned when the media that never wants to see a Republican win any elected office ever again, when they start promoting one of our candidates. That is not a knock at all at Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is doing a fantastic job. I think we can all agree on that. It's just raises some red flags to me. That's all. You've heard me say it before, but again, it's not any kind of dig at Rubio. It's just, what is the media seeing? Why are they going in that direction? All right, we've got a couple of things that are no real way to segue to. I got to get your opinion on one, because we had a viewer the other day. We talked about the ban, or kind of the grandfathering in of a law banning tobacco products in the United Kingdom. And there's a really interesting piece about that, as predicted here on this program, that it would be coming to the States. We'll be telling you that. We've also got, like I said, just some kind of wacky updates that there's no real way to segue to, and we got to talk about Cornell and New York State issues. So stay with us. Running late yet again. We'll be right back.
At Quickfill, what matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quickfill, driving America.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
You deserve primary care that connects. Care that helps you move forward. Care that connects you to world-class specialists. Care that connects you to providers who are part of your community. And care that connects you to the life you love. Because great healthcare comes from providers who care about connection just like you. Find your primary care appointment at centralishealth.org/schedule.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Glass Fest the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Friday, May 22nd, it's award-winning country music powerhouse Drake White with soulful country entertainer John King opening. Friday, May 22nd in Riverfront Centennial Park in Corning. Free and open to the
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer regarding the Strait. To prevent further disruptions by Iran, if the United Arab Emirates would agree, they should build a canal and bypass the narrow strait. Thank you very much. As an update from yesterday, we were talking about Republicans trying to switch Senator John Fetterman, from Democrat to Republican. Well, on yesterday's broadcast of CNN's The Lead, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro responded to those efforts. Now, a lot of people believe that Josh Shapiro, in a different time and place, would have been the front runner for Democrats for the presidential election in 2028. The problem is that the Democrat Party, and this is not my words, this is coming from numerous outlets that support Democrats, that because of his Jewish faith, it's kind of a no-go for the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party, as Van Jones said, has been marbleized with anti-Semitism. I think it's gotten even worse than marbled. So this is very interesting. And Josh Shapiro, I think, would be a formidable candidate. I think in a different world, I think he would be the one that Republicans would be perhaps most fearful of. He's been someone that could work with Republicans in Pennsylvania. But having said that, because he is Jewish, many in the Democrat Party have written him off already. Even look at and he put it in his book about how Kamala Harris's people treated him when there was talks of him being the vice presidential candidate. And many have speculated that that is the reason why Kamala Harris did not pick Josh Shapiro, because he is Jewish. Even asking him, what was it? Are you almost like a spy or something, or an agent for Israel? Very unsettling for those of us, and unfortunately I have a lot of anti-Semitic updates later on in the program. But they asked Josh Shapiro, that was a tangent, I know. They asked Josh Shapiro about the efforts to switch Senator John Fetterman from Democrat to Republican. Jake Tapper said, before you go, I do want to ask you one political question. That's it. Politico's Jonathan Martin is reporting that there's quiet but serious effort by Senate Republicans like Senator Dave McCormick and Senator Katie Britt to get Democrat Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman to switch parties to become an independent and caucus with Republicans. What's your take on that? Ben Shapiro said, look, I don't know what Senator Fetterman's going to do. I know that Pennsylvanians voted for a Democrat to represent them in the United States Senate. And so I think he needs to honor that and continue with his service to Pennsylvania and hopefully get back to what he was elected to do and reflect the will of the people. Ooh, there you go. Hey, this should come as no surprise. These are going to be a couple quick ones with no real way to segue. Remember the time they were saying, no, everything's fine in Washington, D.C. We don't need the feds to come in. We don't need Trump to come in. 13 members of Washington, D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department have been placed on administrative leave and face possible termination following an internal investigation into allegations that crime data was manipulated to make the city appear safer. Again, not a surprise. We knew this. We know this is happening in many blue states who try to push their anti-police, pro-criminal narratives like bail reform. So don't think for a moment, yes, these are 13 scapegoats, but don't think for a moment this wasn't coming down from the top. These are just the ones that are punished for it. President Trump often pointed to reports of manipulated crime stats as one of the reasons he surged federal law enforcement resources to the nation's capital last summer. Remember, they tried to say that that was a conspiracy theory. They tried to criticize Trump for suggesting that the numbers were manipulated. Interim Police Chief Jeffrey Carroll announced the conclusion of the internal investigation, but declined to provide specifics. I wonder why. No one was fired. Some members were served with paperwork yesterday as it relates to being placed on administrative leave pending termination. He added that some of the 13 officers were already on administrative leave for other matters earlier. Let me be clear. We have made meaningful progress over the last 3 years in reducing crime. Homicides, shootings, and carjackings have fallen steadily since 2023. So still trying to push this narrative. But 13 D.C. police officers placed on leave as they manipulated crime stats to make themselves look better, to make it look safer. And again, don't think for a moment this isn't happening in other blue states. All right. Also, just a couple. Do I have time? Yeah, because I really want to bring up this cigarette thing. We got to talk about Cornell. Washington, D.C. is gearing up for Rededicate 250. Now, we know we're celebrating 250 years. Rededicate 250, which will take place right around the corner, May 17th on the National Mall. And it is being described as a national jubilee of prayer, praise, and thanksgiving. As Americans celebrate 250 years, the country as a whole is remembering everything God has done since the nation's inception. The celebration of God's providence will take place on the National Mall again on May 17th. And if anybody out there watching decides to go, and I'm sure there will be some, if you do go, please let us know how it is, and please send pictures so that we can post them here during the broadcast. Again, on May 17th at the National Mall, it'll feature scripture, testimony, prayer, and rededication of our country as one nation to God. The day will kick off with a fellowship in front of the U.S. Capitol and music throughout the day. The event, which is free for everyone, will feature several notable government and faith leaders, including Reverend Franklin Graham, House Speaker Mike Johnson, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, former HUD Secretary Dr. Ben Carson, and many others. Faith leaders from across the faith traditions, Bishop Robert Barron, Cardinal Timothy Dolan. Oh, we know Cardinal Timothy Dolan from the Al Smith dinners. Reverend Franklin Graham, as I mentioned, Pastor Jack Graham, Pastor, I'm going to try here, Jensen Franklin, Rabbi Mir Slolovich, Pastor Gary Hamrick, Reverend Samuel Rodriguez, Pastor Jonathan Falwell, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, Eric attack Sissy Graham Lynch, Abigail Robertson, Pastor Jonathan Pagulda, and Pastor Andy Frank, Christian artist and worship leader Chris Tomlin, who is known for such songs as How Great Is Our God, will serve as the headliner for the event. Freedom 250 also lay out the pillars of the day, which include reflecting on God's providence, sharing personal testimony of God's healing in our lives and in our land, and engaging in a collective expression of gratitude for 250 years of freedom and unified moment of rededication, asking for God's blessing, guidance, and grace for the next 250 years. That sounds like a nice event. Also, you may have heard this yesterday, and your thoughts on this. The president's physical fitness test is back. This is a wonderful tradition, and we're bringing it back, Trump declared. Did you hear the joke that he made while he made the announcement? Something to the extent of, working out is very important in my life. I work out sometimes maybe 1 minute a day. The test consists of these 5 components for our school children. They're designed to assess cardiovascular fitness, upper body and core strength, endurance, flexibility, and agility, a 1-mile run, pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, a shuttle run, a sit and reach. Now, there's no failing grade, but students who scored at or above the 85th percentile on every exercise earned the President's Fitness Award. That's nice. All right, I got to tell you that cigarette story when we come back, and after that, we're going to get into Cornell. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Millions fly with us at Allegiant because together we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
Get ready, Glass Fest, May 22nd through 24th. Brought to you by Chemung Canal Trust. Experience the magic of live glass blowing. From hands-on fun to incredible sights, there's something for everyone. Explore creations from local artisans. 3 days, one incredible celebration. Brought to you by Corning's Gaffer District. On Friday night, it's Drake White with John King opening. On Saturday, Tracy's A Taylor Experience. Join us for Glass Fest. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
There, we're shaping up to have a wet and cool Wednesday. Temperatures staying a good 10 degrees below average with a high of 57, and showers throughout much of the day. Then overnight, we'll see most of the rain taper off by, say, 9 p.m. or so, with temperatures bottoming out in the mid and upper 30s. Staying cool for our Thursday, upper 50s, additional showers possible in the afternoon. We'll see more rain chances as we head through Mother's
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Some comments from viewers, very different comments, and this is what I love about the program. This viewer writes in, my dream team for president and vice president. J.D. Vance would still be the vice president, and Rubio would run as president. That works in multiple ways because it would give JD time to hone his skills at being a politician and campaigning, and open JD up to a run for president after 2 years of Marco. I think that means 2 terms of Marco, I hope. 2 terms of Marco. Yeah, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. And an umbrella emoji. Yes, it's a rainy day out there. I agree. I get nervous when media and the like seem to promote someone. It just makes me nervous. I also agree that Lil Marco seems to be doing a great job while wearing many hats. It seems to me that JD is sort of in the shadows, although I know he is busy fighting fraud. Yeah, I would say as of right now, because I got thinking about all this coverage of Marco Rubio, and I like JD Vance a lot. I like Marco Rubio a lot. I have noticed that J.D. Vance has been quiet. Now, many people said that Marco Rubio have taken the lead on this because J.D., take this with a grain of salt because it's coming mostly from the mainstream media. But J.D. maybe not a big fan of getting involved in Iran. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think, to this viewer's point, that they will, that he's busy fighting fraud. That I do think he's busy in many other areas that may not get as much media attention as, for in this instance, Marco Rubio getting the attention because it's a press briefing. And Marco Rubio, just when it comes to today's culture, when it comes to social media culture, he's just really lucked out with those memes, and he's really lucked out with that DJing of the wedding. All right, I just have to mention this because we predicted it. It's no surprise, but it's pretty chilling in my opinion. The headline by Charles Thane Lehman, and I think this was in the Atlantic, "The end of cigarettes is coming." For almost 2 decades, British retailers have told customers that if they were born after the current date, 18 years ago, they can't buy cigarettes. Starting next year, that date will freeze. Under a recently passed law, selling cigarettes to anyone born on or after January 1st, 2009 will be illegal in perpetuity. As long as the law is in effect, no one who is 17 or younger on New Year's Day 2027 will ever be allowed to buy tobacco legally. We had mentioned this to you a couple weeks ago. This generational tobacco ban represents a very different approach from the tobacco control policy that most Americans are used to. The U.S. regime looks more like what the drug policy scholar Mark Kleiman called grudging toleration towards cigarettes, tax, regulate, and scold, but stop short of outright bans. The new British approach will eventually lead to outright prohibition. Prohibition. The word conjures the specter of violence, crime, and policy failure. But the United Kingdom isn't the first jurisdiction to impose a general ban, and it probably won't be the last. And they go through some tiny islands and things like that. Here in the United States, 22 towns in Massachusetts, beginning with the Boston suburb of Brookline, have passed a generational ban, a possible precursor to statewide legislation. Expect this to come in New York, folks. Now, I'll continue, though, because this is important. The spread of such prohibition raises the counterintuitive possibility that tobacco bans are, in fact, a consequence of grudging toleration, rather than a departure of it. Decades of legal intolerance have steadily eroded the user base and cultural support that justified legality in the first place. Stigmatizing smoking, in other words, seems to have created the basis for an outright ban. That dynamic has implications not just for tobacco, but for the many addictive products now dominating a growing share of our economy, including social media and gambling apps. As addictive design grows more and more common, prohibition might come back into style. Think of how scary this Orwellian language is. Pushing for prohibition, pushing to tell you that force the government, making the government force you what you can and cannot do. And they go through the history of tobacco. We don't need to go through all that. And then it goes through all the stats and statistics. Saying, of course, there are plenty of reasons America might not follow the United Kingdom. The UK's socialized healthcare system means that the costs of smoking are more directly borne by the taxpayer. Wow, everything's taxpayer. Everything's government, folks. Not just about freedom of you to live your life. This is about how can the government manipulate you. But I'll continue. Americans are more individualistic and suspicious of government than the British. Still unclear as whether the UK policy experiment will work in the sense of reducing smoking total harm. Some of the people prohibited from buying cigarettes legally will do so illegally, whether with the help of a friend born before 2009 or through black markets. Such markets can and do generate crime. We don't have enough research yet to judge if the cost will be worth the benefits. Absolutely, there'll be a huge black market. Also think, if you were born before 2009, the money you can make selling cigarettes. Still, the results of the UK tobacco ban and similar efforts might offer lessons beyond those related to smoking. America is beset. This is where it gets the slippery slope idea. America is beset by a variety of addictive products that seem difficult to contain using the delicate instruments of public health. For example, in a landmark ruling last month, a jury determined that Meta and YouTube must pay a woman $6 million for the damage that their products did to her as a child. The plaintiff's case was built on the idea that social media's addictiveness is a defective product design, the same argument made about tobacco decades ago. Then they mention sports books, and gambling. These and other addictive products were initially met with enthusiasm. Many are now facing backlash. In each case, the moderate position is to endorse some degree of regulation while stopping short of being so crude as to ban something harmful outright. But if the experience of tobacco is instructive, then stigmatizing, taxing, and regulating something for long enough can eventually create the conditions for an outright ban. Prohibition has been a dirty word in American public policy since the 21st Amendment passed. But as the Carnegie Mellon professor Jonathan Calkins has observed, American jurisdiction successfully prohibited the sale of products such as fireworks and raw milk on a regular basis. Should we be squeamish about doing so for other things? As with cigarettes, the age of half measures and cautious regulations may soon be over. Now, it had a line in here that got cut off when it was printing, but basically how the government, here it is. We took a public health middle ground. Listen to this line. I want you to see how draconian this is and how Mr. Charles Fane Lehman and big government liberals treat the government. Listen to this line. Allowing people to indulge their vices if they choose so, while heavily discouraging smoking and prescribing who could buy cigarettes and where they could do so. Think of that line. So public health, the government, Big Brother, allowing you, the people, the little people, to indulge in what they consider vices. I'm sure their fancy wine at the end of a meal isn't considered a vice. I'm sure the addictive things that they're involved in, which we could probably go down that rabbit hole and wonder what some of these big government liberals believe. But the government allowing people to indulge their vice. There you are. It was so predictable. We saw it coming. I know I spent probably too much time on it, but talk about overreach. Talk about the heavy hand of government allowing you. You should thank them for allowing you to live your life. It is unbelievable. It's terrifying how many people would support that measure because they don't like cigarettes, or they don't like this, or they don't like that. But then you can go, what about your addiction? What about your social media? You see the slippery slope. But I know I ran long on that. Thank you for humoring me. I had to mention it to you. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. LeCom Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Digital video is the fastest growing form of advertising today. And with hyper-targeting, your marketing dollars can be more efficient than ever. Join WYDC and New Logic Marketing for a digital video strategy seminar May 19th and 20th with sessions from 8 to 9 a.m. and 12 to 1 p.m. at the Radisson in Corning. You'll learn what drives results and how to make video a powerful part of your overall marketing strategy. Join us May 19th for an expert look at digital video and learn what works from experts who
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And I'm running late, so this is perfect. We're going to read your comments, take another break, wrap up today's edition, so keep those comments coming in. We've got a lot of New York State updates. I got to talk about Cornell and what happened there. But Ken writes in, Frank, I just caught the tail end of you mentioning that Kamala's reason for not selecting Josh Shapiro as her running mate was due to his Jewish heritage. Anyone that believes that is delusional. He wasn't selected because he would have outshined Kamala at every turn, and Tim Walz couldn't outshine a burnt-out light bulb. Thanks, Ken. I wouldn't agree with your wording of delusional. I do believe that was part of the decision. his Jewish heritage, because we are being told that Josh Shapiro, who would be a formidable candidate for the Democrats, is not being selected. This is from his own party because he is Jewish. So yes, I think you raised a point that she couldn't pick someone that was going to be better than her, and Josh Shapiro would have been. Sadly, Gavin Newsom would have been. So I understand your argument there, but the questions that he was asked because of his Jewish heritage did play a role overall in that. I truly do believe that. I don't think we can demean, is what I'm trying to say, the fact that the Democrat Party are ostracizing him because he's Jewish. So we may not come to the same conclusion of why he wasn't picked, but that was a major factor, his Jewish heritage. Okay. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. I guess my body, my choice doesn't apply to cigarettes. Very good point. That's a great point. Comment from a different viewer. The tobacco ban reeks of communism and government overreach. It is way, way too intrusive. I couldn't agree more with both viewers there. Comment from a different viewer. The United States is producing so much natural gas that prices at a key hub in West Texas have fallen below zero, forcing drillers to pay buyers to take the fuel. Wow. Thank you for sending the info on that, too. They did, so I appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. Look at all these good mornings, these waves. Good morning, Frank. Was this covered? The court rejects the D.C. bid to hide January 6th body cam footage. Yes, I looked it up. They did reject that bid. They wanted to, the D.C. police wanted to hide or blur their body cameras from that day. They tried to hide all the FBI informants that were in the crowd, trying to enable violence with the protesters. This will be explosive, no pun intended. Thank you very much, viewer. And the final comment in this segment, I commend the president for reviving the president's physical fitness awards, but I'm predicting backlash from the left. It'll be another reason for walkouts in the name of discrimination. I always thought that I was a failure predicting things until I got to know how the left operates. Oh, they're so predictable, aren't they? Once you realize and take a step back and go, wait a minute. It's kind of like when you say, the next thing they're going to do is call for a ban on this. Of course they are. They're always going to go for government overreach, and they're always going to attack anything a Republican president does or a Republican in general does. So with the president's name on this, of course, there's going to be students who think they're going to be the coolest kid in school because really, to be cool now, you have to be the most aggrieved, you have to be the most offended. What used to be, the rock and roll kind of, rebel without a cause, not that anymore. You've got to be the most aggrieved. You have to be the most offended. You have to do the most protesting. So yes, being that President Trump's name is on it, you'll have a lot of kids walking out or not participating, and of course going to social media, and then their parents will make a stink about it, and the parents will be heroes too, so the parents love it as much. It is so predictable. I couldn't agree more. One last quick thing before we talk about Cornell. This is so sad, talking about the anti-Semitism. Hateful anti-Israel mob descended on a historic New York City synagogue yesterday and clashed with cops, attacking houses of worship, folks. Literally shouting, Israel should not exist. About 100 agitators waving Palestinian flags and banging drums swarmed about a half block from Park East Synagogue, chanting, Palestine will never die, and stop the sale of stolen land. Police yelled step back as the crowd became unruly. Chaos began. One officer suffered a leg injury and was hospitalized. Karen Lickbraun, a co-sponsor of the Zionist group Heret New York City, said they're a bunch of brainwashed fools. Israel does not occupy anything. It's the Jewish homeland, and this is all anti-Zionism, which is anti-Semitism, which is Jew hate. Mayor Zohran Mamdani, a staunch critic of Israel, questioning his own anti-Semitic language at times, has not commented on the quote-unquote protest. Man. It's happening more and more, attacking houses of worship. We got to take a break, and then we're going to wrap up hour number one. And it kind of ties in the anti-Semitic mob with what happened with the Cornell president in the attack. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Month after month, year after year, even decades you've paid into the insurance system. You've done your part. But when you're seriously injured in a car accident or another tragedy, that system turns its back. Insurance companies care more about pumping up profits and stock prices than paying for your medical bills, your lost wages, or your recovery. At WYDC Injury Law, we fight to make them pay what's fair. If you've been hurt in New York or Pennsylvania, call 607-500-HURT. Don't let the insurance companies win.
Get ready. Glass Fest, May 22nd through 24th. Brought to you by Chemung Canal Trust. Experience the magic of live glass blowing. From hands-on fun to incredible sights, there's something for everyone. Explore creations from local artisans. 3 days, one incredible celebration brought to you by Corning's Gaffer District. On Friday night, it's Drake White with John King opening. On Saturday, Tracy's A Taylor Experience. Join us for Glass Fest, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Hello there. We're shaping up to have a wet and cool Wednesday. Temperatures staying a good 10 degrees below average with a high of 57 and showers throughout much of the day. Then overnight, we'll see most of the rain taper off by, say, 9 p.m. or so, with temperatures bottoming out in the mid and upper 30s. Staying cool for our Thursday, upper 50s, additional showers possible in the afternoon. We'll see more rain chances as we head through Mother's Day weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In the next hour, we are going to talk quickly about what happened at Cornell just the other day. A couple quick things to wrap up this hour. Trump has hinted an agreement with Iran may be close, so he paused Project Freedom, which is interesting because it came right after Rubio saying that we're still involved in Project Freedom, and then he said, wait a minute. The president said in a Truth Social post, he shared that while the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz would remain in full force, Project Freedom was being paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement can be finalized. Based on the request of Pakistan and other countries, the tremendous military success that we have had during the campaign against the country of Iran, and additionally the fact that great progress has been made towards a complete and final agreement with representatives of Iran, we have mutually agreed that while the blockade will remain in full force and effect, Project Freedom will be paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement can be finalized and signed. As of yesterday, the United States overtook Saudi Arabia to become the world's largest exporter of crude oil over the past 9 weeks, as Iran's attacks on shipping in the Strait of Hormuz choked off Middle Eastern oil shipment. Bloomberg News reported that the U.S. shipped more than 250 million barrels of crude oil from its wells and storage tanks to overseas buyers over the past 9 weeks, becoming a, quote, lifeline for global consumers. The report cautioned that record American exports also come with warnings that this supply cushion is rapidly becoming pushed to its limits. Many energy experts are questioning how long shipments can be sustained at such levels. U.S. domestic inventories are quickly depleting, with total oil and fuel stockpiles drawing down for 4 straight weeks to below historic average. Meanwhile, American oil producers are struggling to keep up. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about Cornell. We're also going to be joined for just a quick little clip from Connor Zilic. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. NASCAR Cup Series. Connor Zilic. He's got a busy weekend at the Glen this weekend. Again, I know I asked, are you going to Watkins Glen this weekend? I know it looks like it's going to be raining. We hope for the best. I know some of the stores and shops are excited because this gives them kind of an early start to the season. But we wonder the numbers just out of, listen, I think everybody knows it. You're picking upstate New York in May for the race. It's just, you never know what you're going to get. Now, last year was at Labor Day. Historically, it's been in August. We'll see what next year brings, where they're going to keep moving. I mean, that's kind of the nature, I guess, now of how NASCAR does things. So we'll see how that goes. But are you planning on going? Are you just planning on watching? Love to hear your thoughts. But we got to take a break. Hour number 2 coming up after this.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Every job demands control, no matter how rough the terrain. That's why Ferris features patented front and rear suspension, turning rough terrain into smooth motion. Less stress on your crew, less stress on your equipment, more lawns mowed. Feels like more money in your pocket. Feels like a Ferris.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Spring Value Days are here, and our prices are lower than ever. Stop by your neighborhood value home centers and spring into savings. Save $10 instantly off all Valspar transparent exterior one-coat stain and sealer. Now $34.96 a gallon. Save up to 50% on Scott's Classic Grass Seed, Sun and Shade Mix, or Ortho Weed Clear, just $9.99 each. Come on in for spring value days.
Value for the do-it-yourselfer. Do-it-yourself.
And we welcome you to our number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and we're having a blast this morning. As a reminder, Connor Zilich will be our guest. It's like 2 minutes. It was a press availability. We're going to ask him a couple questions about his race weekend coming up because he's actually triple duty. Friday's Bully Hill Vineyards 176 at the Glen, NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race, and Saturday's Mission 200 at the Glen, NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. So we're going to hear all about that. Well, I say all about that. It's a quick one. On tomorrow's program, by the way, we'll be talking with Chris Malpas of the Malpas Brothers. I think you're really going to want to hear more about this new album they have out. It's a gospel album. Really amazing what we've heard so far. He's going to be joining us, and next week we'll talk with his brother. They got some special things coming up that I think you're really going to enjoy that interview. I know we talked with Chris not that long ago, but they've got so many things going on in their careers. I didn't want to pass up this opportunity to pass along the info on this gospel album. Then on Friday, we're going to be talking with Joseph Hernandez. He is candidate for state comptroller on the Republican ticket. After we hear from him, we're going to hear on Friday. What a packed Friday. We're going to hear from former Congressman, current Assemblyman, Joe Sempolinski. Okay, there's all of our housekeeping. I have to mention this. We're not going to spend too much time on it. But the president of Cornell University, right down the road, allegedly ran over the foot of one student and injured another during a heated parking lot clash after they had an Israel-Palestine debate. Surveillance video showed a group of students surrounding Michael Kotlikoff's black Cadillac as they tried to stop him from leaving. Kotlikoff reversed his SUV out of the space before coming to a sudden stop. He then continued with his maneuver, all while students still surrounded the vehicle. A woman was seen standing in front of the Ivy League University president's vehicle before moving out of shot as he drove towards her. Now, let me ask you this. If you just had to speculate, maybe you haven't heard anything about this. If you haven't heard anything about it, what side do you think was trying to block him in? What side do you think it was that was trying to surround his vehicle? Do you think it was the pro-Israeli side or the pro-Palestinian side? If we had a little tick-tock thing, tick-tock, tick-tock, I'll let you think as I continue. Another student filming the university president made a nuisance of himself by standing in front of the vehicle as he tried to drive away from the Ithaca, New York campus. Kotlikoff has been president of Cornell since March of last year and has been accused of injuring 2 students, according to the students. And here we go, for a Democratic Cornell. When we tried to discuss campus speech policies, he hit us with his car. Kotlikoff's violent response to student inquiry is just another example of his administration's repressive crackdown on student speech. Yes, in Ithaca. So this is probably, I don't know anything about Kotlikoff, but I'm assuming it's someone who's left that isn't far enough left for these radicalized students. One student was heard saying, "Oh, he just ran over my blinking foot." On Friday, Kotlikoff said he was accosted by a group of several individuals as he tried to leave the event that was hosted by the Cornell Political Union and co-sponsored by Cornell Progressives, Cornellians for Israel, and Students for Justice in Palestine. Quote, "These individuals are known to Cornell for their past conduct, including a long history of ongoing verbal and online abuse towards numerous members of Cornell's administration and staff, as well as disruptive protests resulting in the case of 2 individuals in bans from campus. These individuals followed me from the event space and across campus while loudly shouting questions and recording on their phones. After answering a few questions, I let them know that I was not planning to engage further and asked them to stop recording. Their response was, 'No, we are not going to stop.' They continued to follow me to my car and then surrounded the car, banging on the windows, blocking the car, and shouting. I waited until I saw space behind the car and then, using my car's rear pedestrian alert and automatic braking system, was able to slowly maneuver my car from the parking space and exit the parking lot. The behavior I experienced last night is not protest. It is harassment and intimidation, with the direct motive of silencing speech. It has no place in an academic community, no place in a democracy, and can have no place at Cornell. But Hudson Athis, who was a member of Students for Democrat Cornell, disputed this claim. We weren't at all shouting at him. It was mostly one person who was talking with him and just trying to have a conversation. Yes, historically we know that. That's one thing they're always trying to do as they surround a car, is to just have the conversation. Well, and then I bring this up. The New York Post says kudos to Cornell University's president, Michael Kotlikoff, for refusing to let a bunch of entitled student protesters hold him hostage by blocking his car as they bullied him for not kowtowing to their cause. And we talked about this in the past with college students. They no longer go to get an education. They no longer go to school to learn. They go to teach. They go to lecture the adults in the room. Imagine these kids returning home on Thanksgiving at your table, how that must be. Instead, he did what so many viewers of protest footage have silently urged drivers to do: maneuver his car away from the scene. And if one of his attackers suffered from it, that's on them. It all played out on Thursday after Kotlikoff presided over a peaceable campus debate concerning Israel's response to the attacks of October 7, 2023. A pack of anti-Zionist loudmouths intercepted Kotlikoff on his way to his car, demanding he dialogue with them right then and there, and insisting it was a free speech violation to refuse. So if he did not respond to their questions, their comments, it was a violation of free speech. The mob encircled the car, reportedly banging on the windows and hollering. Kotlikoff put the car in gear, whereupon one student leaned into the trunk and jeered, "Am I allowed to stand here?" Wow, the arrogance, the entitlement. The back corner of the car nudged him slightly as Kotlikoff slowly pulled away. The kid now claims the rear tire ran over his toe. The activists predictably went nuts, claiming that their school's president had tried to mow them down. Please, everyone's seen such scenes play out across the country. Protesters sit in or otherwise obstruct traffic, posturing as if they're simply exercising their constitutional rights. These entitled radicals somehow believe any behavior is legally and morally acceptable if it's done for the, quote, right reasons, and that their reasons, guess what, are always right. Okay, you can't plow into a crowd of protesters blocking the street with no regard for human life, but obstructing someone's movement against his or her will is unlawful imprisonment, a Class A misdemeanor punishable by up to a year in jail. Constitutionally protected political speech and assembly covers a lot of ground, but it doesn't extend to inhibiting anyone's freedom of movement. Yet prosecutors in left-leaning jurisdictions almost never charge the, quote, right protesters, meaning the right on the right side of the issue for them, with riot or unlawful assembly. So the brats think they can never face consequences to violating others' rights, and they never do. And the New York Post hit it right on the head, and we've talked about it numerous times. They know they're not going to get in any kind of trouble because guess what? The people of Ithaca, the people of Cornell, they support what they did. So do you think someone there is going to go after them and charge them with that misdemeanor? No, of course not. So they know they're going to get away with it. And guess what? Going back to my point about if you're the most aggrieved and if you're the most offended and you're the most angered and the most do the most protests, you're the cool kids, these kids are going to be campus heroes. But wrapping up what the Post said, the student gang had no right to block Kotlikoff's car, nor to implicitly threaten his well-being, no matter how passionate their feelings about Palestine or anti-Semitism or anything else is. America's campuses need more leaders who refuse to give an inch to these self-righteous bullies. I thought that was a really good piece, and I knew we had to bring that up because Cornell right down the road. I've been kind of teasing it all morning long. I appreciate the viewer who sent in a question for Connor. The question was, please ask Connor how he has healed up since his mishap when he fell out of his car after winning. Has he given any thoughts on how he will celebrate future victories? I did not ask that, so give you a little inside info. It was kind of like what you'd call a press conference. It's just over Zoom. So I had the opportunity to ask him 2 quick questions. So many people asked him about that already. I didn't want to kind of belabor the point. But his idea was basically he didn't over-celebrate. He just felt, like you said, fell out of his car, that he healed up fine, and that it's something that happened. It wasn't the hard-hitting answer, I guess maybe we all hope for. Not hard-hitting, but kind of that, I don't know, much of an answer. I'll put it that way. So I did not ask him. I do appreciate that. Normal circumstances, I would have been happy to ask that question, but this was just a press conference where I got maybe 2 minutes worth of substance here. All right, since we're talking about New York, and we're talking about things that somewhat directly affect us. I mean, that's at Cornell, not that far down the road. I've got an interesting one for you. And get ready for a blast from the past. I saw this headline. It kind of got buried later on throughout the day, but I printed it out as soon as I saw it. The U.S. House of Representatives, quietly paid out more than $300,000 in taxpayer money to settle sexual harassment claims. Now, why am I bringing this up? Why was this so important to print out after it was kind of buried the rest of the day? You'll find out when we return. Yes, I got to take a break, and I wasn't doing that just to be cheap and keep you hooked. But you're not going to want to go anywhere when you hear these staggering numbers and why it directly affects us. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
Glassfest Rock the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Saturday, May 23rd is Tracy's A Taylor Experience.
Welcome to our tribute to the Eras Tour.
Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Down and play, I'll write your name.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
Hello there, we're shaping up to have a wet and cool Wednesday. Temperatures staying a good 10 degrees below average with a high of 57 and showers throughout much of the day. Then overnight, we'll see most of the rain taper off by, say, 9 p.m. or so, with temperatures bottoming out in the mid and upper 30s. Staying cool for our Thursday, upper 50s, additional showers possible in the afternoon. We'll see more rain chances as we head through Mother's Day.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Mark writes in, maybe California should have shut down all their oil refineries and they also buy oil instead of refining it. Okay, thank you. Mark also says most people probably would have mowed them all down. They are lucky he didn't, meaning those student protesters that the president of Cornell, yes, very gingerly, if you will, tried to get out of the spot. They don't have a right It's the same thing we've been saying about the blocking of the streets and the bridges and things like that. They don't have a right to stop him from leaving. Continuing. The students should all be expelled and their parents lose their money. I would agree, but there won't be any punishment. Keep in mind, there's no punishment on other college campuses, but now we're talking Ithaca, folks. Now we're talking Cornell. Do you think there'll be any real punishment? All right, I said I would mention this, and again, I kept you hooked. I hope you'll forgive me. House lawmakers doled out more than $338,000 in taxpayer funds from a so-called sexual harassment slush fund between the years 2007 and 2017. This is according to data released by Representative Nancy Mace. Well, why am I bringing this up? The figure is higher than previously known, but a much lower portion of the $18 million total paid out in response to workplace complaints on Capitol Hill that had been rumored. On Monday, Mace confirmed the names of 4 former legislators whose offices made payments. And this is why I bring it up. Let's see if you remember any of these names. Representative Blake Farenthold, Republican from Texas. John Connors, Democrat from Michigan. Eric Massa, Democrat from New York. And Patrick Meehan, Republican from Pennsylvania. All 4 were previously known to have faced sexual misconduct accusations. The reason I bring this up is the cost to taxpayers because of our one-time representative, Eric Massa. Yes, if you don't recall, maybe you're new to the area or just the time passes so quickly, Eric Massa was our congressman in the 23rd, I think it was still the 23rd Congressional District at the time, but he was our congressman. And he was only there a few short years because of these accusations. He went on Glenn Beck, which was a disaster, and he talked about, remember, snorkeling and tickle parties. He even made the Saturday Night Live made a skit about him. Well, Farenthold's office paid about $84,000. That's a lot. Connor's office paid about $50,000. Meehan's office spent about $39,000. Eric Massa paid out $115,000 over multiple occasions in 2010. That's not coming from his pocket. That's coming from taxpayers. Wow. Let's see, because there was something else on this about Eric Massa's specifically. I mentioned it because here it is. So this is how it happened with Eric Massa. In 2010, it was $85,000 because of these accusations. 2010, $20,000. And then again, Eric Massa in 2010, $10,000 coming from this slush fund. Wow. I just had to mention that. Again, a blast from the past. Our former representative Eric Massa's office, so much more than everyone else on this list, paid out $115,000. He didn't. Taxpayers did. Paid out $115,000 over multiple occasions. There you are. I saw that and I knew I had to print it out just to bring that to you. Now, most New Yorkers, as we move to New York State issues, most New York voters say cost of living is out of control. Saying it's gotten harder to make ends meet in New York, the Siena College poll, which found that Governor Hochul's approval rating has dipped again, asked more than 800 voters if they believe that New York was headed in the wrong direction. And 67% of New Yorkers, hard to get 67% of anybody to agree, of any group, said it was going in the wrong direction. The dire forecast cut across partisan lines. 59% of Democrats, 79% of Republicans, and 71% of independents or non-party affiliated voters agree that the state is taking a bite out of their wallets. Now, take this with a grain of salt. Siena, it's a poll, but it's still worth mentioning. New Yorkers are very disappointed with the state of affairs. Full stop, said J.C. Polanco, a political analyst and professor at the University of Mount St. Vincent. I hate that term, full stop. I just got to, if I could, just quickly distance myself from that. I was quoting him and not myself. You can see in the results regarding cost of living and affordability. Both Republicans and Democrats love to talk about it, but their solutions stink, he said. It's terrible. Who's going to come up with a solution? Voters are fed up with their leaders. The cost of living doesn't seem to be going in any direction but up. People are worried about their future and their children's future. Look just, for instance, we talk about it so often, especially when Assemblyman Phil Palmisano's on. Because of the failed policies coming out of Albany, your costs of living are so much higher. Don't think for a moment that's not because of one-party rule in Albany. Now, I'm not saying your gas and electric utilities, they're clean as a fresh-driven snow, but a lot of that cost is because of the failed climate policy of Albany. The Siena results represented a mixed bag for Hochul, whose favorability rating dipped to 41% from 45% in March, her lowest mark, while her approval rating was at 48% and after a 52% rating in March, the lowest in a year. So she's 41%. But what's interesting is she's actually still doing better than Blakeman. Again, take it with a grain of salt. It's just one poll. They interviewed about 800 people. The Siena poll also found that Hochul's lead over Republican challenger Bruce Blakeman had slightly widened since the earlier survey. The Democrat governor now leads Blakeman by a 49-33 margin. One major challenge for Blakeman appears to be that 64% of voters polled said they don't know who he is or are unfamiliar with him. And that has been, I know a lot of people that watch this program, that has been the major concern. That he is unknown, and unfortunately, and we're very glad to have him on the program, friend of Frankly Speaking, I'm just being realistic with you. The problem is that he has to reach out in upstate as well, where people don't know him. He shouldn't have to do that. It should be, if you look at Elise Stefanik, if Elise Stefanik had run, we'd actually be kind of mad at her for spending time in upstate. We'd be saying, focus, you've got upstate, you got it locked. Focus on downstate. But that's not the case here. Blakeman forced to come to all areas of New York State, visit all areas of New York State to get his name out there. And how does he get it out there? The media is not going to cover him. So these numbers, so again, Hochul leads Republican nominee Bruce Blakeman 49% to 33%, with the remainder undecided or preferred someone else. Blakeman's big challenge, as I said, they don't know who, or they're not familiar with him. One eye-opener, only 43% of voters said they would re-elect Democrat Attorney General Letitia James, while 41% of respondents preferred someone else. Now, I'm probably Saritha Kamatoretti, and I know I'm not pronouncing that right. We're trying to get her on the program. She's a former federal prosecutor and chief of staff of the Drug Enforcement Agency. She is a Republican challenger against Letitia James. Democrat State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli is seeking a fifth term, but only 28% of voters said they would re-elect DiNapoli, 29% preferred someone else, and 43% had no opinion. Not a lot of people know their comptroller. All right. Oops, running a little bit late. We got to take a short break. Keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us. Whoa, which one are we on? Stay with us.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
State nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Digital is the fastest growing form of advertising today. And with hyper-targeting, your marketing dollars can be more efficient than ever. Join WYDC and New Logic Marketing for a digital video strategy seminar May 19th and 20th with sessions from 8 to 9 a.m. and 12 to 1 p.m. at the Radisson in Corning. You'll learn what drives results and how to make video a powerful part of your overall marketing strategy. Join us May 19th for an expert look at digital video and learn what works from experts.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. I'm once again a failure at predicting things, okay? I never would have guessed that any university staff member would stand up to a protester on the left. Maybe there is hope for academia. Well, don't get ahead of yourself. Let me just say it wasn't necessarily standing up against the protesters. It was he just wanted to leave the forum. I wouldn't say he was speaking out on their issue or saying, hey, it's not right to push anti-Semitism or Israel's right or whatever. It wasn't that. It was literally like, hey, I'm not answering your questions. I want to get out of here. So I wouldn't say you were completely wrong. I wouldn't put it that he stood up against leftist protesters. I would just say he wanted to get home and they weren't letting him get home. So he's upset. But if you look at his comment, I don't know the gentleman. I don't know anything about him. But there was nothing about the substance of their debate or or what they were pushing. It was just the fact that they had the forum. When it got over, they tried to harass him and keep him there. So it's a little bit different. So I wouldn't say that you were wrong. Comment from a different viewer. I've recently noticed that Blakeman has begun running campaign ads. They're quite good. I'm optimistic. Good to hear. Mark writes, Blakeman needs to have a debate with the Wicked Witch of the West, Hochul. Then he would get recognized. Here's the problem with that, and I agree. The problem is, and you've probably seen this historically, whenever there's a debate, they bury it. It's so difficult to find. It's like a Tuesday night at 8 on some station out of New York City. It ends up making it here, but you really have to search for it. You really have to set your alarm. And then it'll probably be a one and done with Hochul. She may not even agree to a debate. She may say, hey, I got too many things going on, as sometimes incumbents do. But if she does do a debate, it'll probably be a one and done. She may go the old Cuomo route, which is to get as many people on that stage as possible. Cuomo used to do that because there's some wackadoo third parties out there that's not as prominent as it used to be, but where you could stack the whole Diaz so that he had no issue. He really didn't even have to answer any questions. In this case, they might try to, if he ultimately gets on the ballot, which I haven't heard one way or the other. Larry Sharp may have that be a three-person debate. But I agree with you in premise, Mark. I absolutely do. Those clips will go viral, but they're going to go viral amongst conservatives. The media isn't going to report on the failed job of Hochul. And most people, unfortunately, aren't going to watch a governor's debate on some random weeknight. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you can laugh at me and say how idiotic I was for that. It just seems that we've fallen down that path before. I mean, when Kristen Gillibrand, Wendy Long ran against her, Wendy Long was brilliant, destroyed her in that debate. No one knew about it. I watched it. I mean, but it didn't. It's not like they're showing it on national TV. They're showing it on a New York City channel that you then there have to search to find it here locally. So, because if anybody watched that, there'd be no doubt that Wendy Long should be our senator. And this is a scenario, no doubt Blakeman should be our governor. But will they have the opportunity to watch it? So yes, Hochul's favorability and approval ratings dropped 8 points, but somehow her lead grows over Blakeman. That's, again, why you should probably take all of these polls with a grain of salt. For whatever reason, Siena is one that places like Empire Report and others go to because it's heavily focused on, or it is just focused on New York. But it is interesting to see how the majority believes, both Democrat, Republicans, and Independents, how bad we are in New York, how people are struggling in New York. By the way, Senator Chuck Schumer, who is viewed unfavorably by New York City voters, 37 to 45%. He just keeps getting bad poll number after bad poll number. By the way, GOP gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman, as we mentioned him, he emerged from a White House meeting with President Donald Trump on Tuesday with a promise to sue Governor Hochul if she enacts anti-ICE policies. We've got another comment on that. And, let me tell you about this when we return, because what I want to do now is, I almost forgot. We got to play it's just a quick clip, but I want to hear what I already heard it, but I want you to hear what Connor Zilic had to say. If you're not familiar, he is just 19 years old. In his rookie Cup Series season, driving the 88 Trackhouse Racing Chevrolet. He won 10 races in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series last year. He has 2 NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series wins right here at Watkins Glen International, 2024 and 2025. The 2024 race win came in his series debut. He was the 7th driver in series history to win in their first race in the series. This weekend, he's pulling triple duty, running in Friday's Bully Hill Vineyards 176 at the Glen NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race and Saturday's Mission 200 at the Glen NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. So, here we go. As I said, not a huge interview, but for all of our racing fans out here, let's hear from Connor. Hi, Connor. Thanks so much for joining us. A couple quick questions, just two. Why kick off the truck racing season at Watkins Glen? Why would it be so important for you to be at Watkins?
I don't think it was, chosen to be the first one on purpose. I wanted to race as many as I could. And, this was the first one that was really available and that Spire called and asked if I wanted to do. So, it's more so just the opportunity that came up and they know that that's one of my better tracks and Spire wants to win. And that's, it's an honor that they chose me to be in their truck and to field a third truck for me at Watkins Glen to try and go win races with them. So, I'm excited for it. Looking forward to getting back with Spire. It's been a few months. Last time we were out at the Roval, we finished top 5 together. So I have no doubt that we can have a good day at Watkins Glen.
Well, thank you. One last question. I got this from a viewer. What are the notable differences between racing in the O'Reilly Series and Cup Series besides the competition?
Yeah, the cars are obviously a lot different. The tire is a big one with the smaller sidewall. It's a little bit less forgiving. And just the cars themselves are a bit more rigid and that makes a big difference as a driver. You can certainly feel it behind the wheel. And then, the obvious things like the gearbox being a sequential and, having an extra gear, a 5th gear at Watkins Glen makes a difference and can change things throughout the track and what gear you run in each corner. So, it's certainly different, but at the same time, you're just trying to make a race car go fast around a racetrack. And, as a race car driver, that's our job and it's what we get paid to do. So, I'm looking forward to getting to run all 3 series and hopefully making it to Sunday this time around.
Great. Thank you so much. We want to thank Connor for being on the program. Like I said, it was just a little quick one, but getting us excited for racing at the Glen this weekend. Don't forget, before we take a break, and then we're going to talk more about what Bruce Blakeman had to say, a couple things here about New York State. Keep those comments coming in, by the way. Tomorrow on the program, Chris Malpas of the Malpas Brothers. They've got a new gospel album out. You're going to want to hear all about that. We're also going to talk on Friday. This is a jam-packed Friday, so set your alarm. We're going to talk with Joseph Hernandez, the New York State Comptroller candidate, running as a Republican, of course. He's going to join us, and right after him, former Congressman, current Assemblyman, Joe Sempolinski. All right, we got to take a short break. More on Bruce Blakeman. Excuse me, I got tongue-tied. When we return, stay with us.
It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
Glassfest Rock the Park Presented by Simmons Rockwell. Friday, May 22nd, it's award-winning country music powerhouse Drake White with soulful country entertainer John King opening. Friday, May 22nd in Riverfront Centennial Park in Corning. Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
There, we're shaping up to have a wet and cool Wednesday. Temperatures staying a good 10 degrees below average with a high of 57 and showers throughout much of the day. Then overnight, we'll see most of the rain taper off by, say, 9 p.m. or so, with temperatures bottoming out in the mid and upper 30s, staying cool for our Thursday, upper 50s, additional showers possible in the afternoon. We'll see more rain chances as we head through Mother's Day week.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go through some viewer comments. The United Arab Emirates is preparing to enter war with Iran. May introduce ground troops if attack continues. Interesting, I had not seen that. I'll have to do a little more research on that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. I see that Bruce Blakeman's advertising for governor of New York. Excellent job. Thank you. We're going to talk about Bruce Blakeman here in a second. Ken writes in, I apologize for not articulating my point more succinctly on Shapiro. Well, that's no problem. I agree that Democrat leadership isn't enamored with Shapiro because of his Jewish heritage. I was specifically referring to why Kamala would have been against him as her running mate. She knew she had to have a low intelligent, inarticulate person in the number 2 spot, so she wouldn't be outshined. I don't believe she had the depth to think about the political fallout associated the Democrats' party having a Jewish VP. That's a good point, Ken. I mean, obviously she couldn't have someone outshine her, and that was a tough bar to find. And they found it, Tim Walz. But yeah, that was difficult because Ben Shapiro would have outshone her. Same with Gavin Newsom. Same with some of these even lower tier, Cory Booker even somehow. So she had to find Tim Walz and then tell you that he was the projection of the alpha male. He was going to reach all those disenfranchised men who had left the Democrat Party because of his tough ways and his tough talk. But yes, I feel bad for Josh Shapiro. He should, no doubt, be the biggest talk. And I'm not saying this, in any biased way. I'm being very genuine here. I think he would have been the most formidable Democrat presidential candidate. He still could get there, but. I mean, the problems that Gavin Newsom's having and how disastrous California is, Ben Shapiro could make a very good argument. And their economy is not perfect, but a lot of that was because of Republicans in their legislature, but also the fracking issue. But anyway, put that aside. He could be a very good candidate, and I just think he's going to be completely overlooked because of the anti-Semitism running amok in the Democrat Party. Anyway. GOP gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman, as I said, he left the White House after a meeting with President Trump, and he promises to sue Governor Hochul if she enacts an anti-ICE policy. Blakeman otherwise kept largely tight-lipped on details from his behind-closed-doors meeting with his longtime friend, Trump, although he did volunteer that their confidential conversation also covered energy costs, economic policy, and crime in New York. But when asked afterward about Hochul's stance on ICE, Blakeman didn't hold back, saying, quote, if Governor Hochul and the legislature pass a law restricting local government from cooperating with ICE, I will sue them in federal court. I don't think they have the constitutional right to tell my police department not to work with a federal agency. And now, if you're not familiar, Blakeman is a current Nassau County executive. He confirmed he also met with the White House political operation. He wouldn't confirm whether Trump would campaign for him, but hinted it could unfold. Ooh, that would be interesting. I wonder where exactly they would campaign. Meaning, do you go to the city? Or, if he had one or two big Trump rallies in a Rochester, Buffalo, that would reach enough upstate, that could be very interesting. If there is a campaign. And it's good that, let's face it, it's good that Blakeman met with the campaign apparatus of the White House. Blakeman said he's very supportive and he's going to help. I think he'll be active in my campaign. I think he'll be helpful. And one thing I thought that was very refreshing was that Blakeman didn't hide away from his support for Trump and Trump's support for him. When we interviewed him just a few weeks ago, he didn't shy away from it. And I think that's a very telltale sign of someone who stands by their principles. You could have seen someone kind of shy away from it a little bit. He played right into it. Remember when his phone rang during the interview, he said, well, I wonder if this is President Trump. Have a good time with it. Because when I asked, what's it like to have President Trump tweet about you? He says, pretty cool. I thought that was very real, I guess. Bruce Blakeman continued that, oh no, I'm sorry. Hold on. Did I skip a page? Oh, it was met by derision from Hochul. Hochul said, that's just precious. I know he's going to get his marching orders. I'm not surprised he's going down there to ask for his help in a struggling campaign. And so I think the voters will look at him with a skewed eye for how they feel about a candidate for governor having to go to the White House to get directions on what to do. But Hochul's attempt at portraying Blakeman as a meek Trump toady at the White House arguably was hypocritical, given her own White House groveling, when not publicly cosplaying as the Rambo-esque leader of the resistance. Yes, she wants to be a part of the big dogs in the Democrat Party, and she's just not there. It's so pathetic. Hochul regularly chats chummily with Trump over the phone and isn't above visiting the White House. She also presented Trump with a flattering Storytime-style booklet last year touting the virtues of congestion pricing. Big words, nice colors, Hochul joked at the time. But Hochul's campaign spokesperson doubled down, saying Bruce Blakeman went crawling all the way to Trump's doorstep for help empowering ICE, jacking up costs, and gutting Medicaid. We'll give Bruce some free advice. He won't want to hear from his MAGA handlers in D.C. New Yorkers want a governor who fights back against Trump, not one who folds on command. Well, couldn't you argue, like the Post is arguing there, that Hochul has caved to Trump numerous times? But to Bruce Blakeman's point on this, and we haven't heard from him in a while. I'm a little disappointed. I kind of miss him. I'm glad he's back. Tom Homan. He said, because if you're not familiar, in New York State, they're talking about, like Bruce Blakeman was mentioning, in the legislature, part of this budget, the policy in the budget, they're talking about making so the ICE can't cooperate with local law enforcement. Local law enforcement can't cooperate with ICE. So if New York approves a package of sanctuary-like measures, Tom Homan had this to say. What's going to happen with places like New York, he was asked the question. What's going to happen with places like New York, and if people pass ridiculous legislation not to work with us? Oh, no, I don't know why I second-guessed myself. Again, we start from scratch. Tom Homan saying, quote, what's going to happen with places like New York, and if people pass ridiculous legislation not to work with us, we're going to flood the zone. You're going to see more ICE agents than you've ever seen before. So congratulations. Good. Send that message to Governor Hochul. You want to go that direction? Then get ready. Don't think for a moment he won't back that up. Now, Hochul decried Homan's remarks to reporters, saying, all I'll say to Mr. Homan is that Donald Trump himself said he would not send a surge of ICE agents to the state of New York unless I asked. I'm not asking. Ooh, tough talk from Governor Hochul. Was it tough talk? Trump said. I thought you weren't relying on Trump. Only Blakeman was. How pathetic. But that leads into this. No. I'm going to take a break. We're going to read your comments when we return. I've got the question, not a question, it's more of an answer from the Post editorial board. Why Governor Hochul insists on blaming Trump for New York's woes. Also, I've got to mention this, and I would love to hear your opinion. A while ago, we had the conversation about assisted suicide, government-assisted suicide in New York State. And it was really a conversation that I thought was really important to have here on the air because we got back and forth. It was amazing. the response that we got from all different perspectives, from all different ideas. My biggest argument, and I did receive some pushback, but also some support, was that I was afraid of the slippery slope. And we had pointed to some things that happened in Canada when they had government-assisted suicide. And that has only gotten worse. There was a case the other day where a healthy young woman couldn't deal with her depression anymore because of the loss of her son, and she opted into that government-assisted suicide. And now a Canadian actress who is physically healthy and admitted that she has an embarrassment of riches, that was her term, quote, an embarrassment of riches, is begging a court in Canada to allow her to die by assisted suicide because of crippling mental illness. Claire Brazé, I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but 49, a Montreal-based actress who has appeared in dozens of movies alongside the likes of James Franco and others, said she hasn't left home in months because of severe bipolar and post-traumatic disorder. Quote, it's unbearable. Every morning I wake up, I don't think I'm going to make it through the day. Anyway, so now she said, despite having an embarrassment of riches, including friends, a devoted family, and a beloved dog named Olive, she can't endure the unrelenting suffering anymore. Her lawyer said this is an extraordinary remedy, which we are pursuing, but the situation that Claire finds herself in is also extraordinary. Now, her parents and sister have said they are horrified when the actress first told them of her plans to try to die, despite the fact that she is physically healthy, a situation the law allegedly bans. I was furious. I really saw it as giving up, said her sibling. That's just why I mentioned this, because you're seeing more examples of this coming out of Canada, and it just is so troubling after we've had that conversation, because slippery slope, and look where will New York be headed. We got a lot of comments coming in, and as I said, we're going to talk about Governor Hochul when we return, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking, and we will be right back.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Digio is the fastest growing form of advertising today. And with hyper-targeting, your marketing dollars can be more efficient than ever. Join WYDC and New Logic Marketing for a digital video strategy seminar May 19th and 20th with sessions from 8 to 9 a.m. and 12 to 1 p.m. at the Radisson in Corning. You'll learn what drives results and how to make video a powerful part of your overall marketing strategy. Join us May 19th for an expert look at digital video and learn what works from experts who understand.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Just looking up a little information here, seeing what people had to say. Let's go right back to it. All right, Ken writes in. Ken, I'm sorry I missed that. I had pasted your comment to read later, and I just got caught up. I hope I didn't miss anybody else's. Ken writes in, the Dems and some Republicans must be giddy about the British banning cigarettes. Their hope is that cigarette companies will try to pay their way into surviving by huge political donations. I agree. Yeah, sorry I missed that. You're exactly right. And then let's talk about the dirty little secret that they don't really want them to be banned. I mean, Britain might, but there's a lot of taxes that come from, especially in New York State. I mean, you look at, for instance, on a cigar. 75% of your cost on that cigar when Brown's was still open, well, they're still open, but like when they were selling tobacco, we've already talked about that. Was 75% was New York State taxes. So when you went in, you thought you were going to, like the old days, buy a box for a wedding, or you're having a kid or something, you thought you could buy a whole box, and then you see an individual stick is $20, $25, 75% of that, New York. All right. For one clue as to why Governor Hochul's favorability rating is at its lowest point in a year, look no further than at her lame comments on Bruce Blakeman's meeting with President Trump. Her challenger is, quote, going to keep kowtowing to the president, said Hochul. Blakeman's groveling at Trump's feet, getting his marching orders to jack up costs. By contrast, when she met Trump, she boasted her goal was to try to find a way to get federal money turned back on. Huh? How is that not groveling? And what a coincidence that Trump in that meeting pressed her to greenlight a natural gas pipeline, which she soon did just that. So who's groveling? Who's stooping at the feet of President Trump? That is, she got her marching orders to bring down costs because that's what the president's program is all about. And by the way, Nassau County under Blakeman, they're doing a heck of a lot better than the state as a whole under Hochul. It's simply good for New York when its leaders find ways to work with the president, as even socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani understands. Hochul seems to think her best path to re-election is to dump on Trump, as if he's the cause of all New York's problems. New York residents don't buy that, which is why the Siena poll found that just 41% of them giving her a favorability rating versus 46 unfavorable. They realize Democrats dominate government here and have run New York as a one-party state for years. Yet more think the state's on the wrong track, 48%, than on the right one, 38%. On reducing crime, 53% say the state's on the wrong track, versus just 38% who say the opposite. On creating more affordable housing, it's 57 to 31, wrong track. On addressing the cost of living, 67 to 27%. You certainly can't fault voters on the cost issue. Last year, U.S. News ranking put New York as the 6th highest cost of living. Housing, energy costs, and of course taxes especially are through the roof. And while Hochul, when not preaching about the orange bad man, claims she's tackling affordability, she's already broken her vow not to raise taxes 3 times already this year by pushing that second house tax, hitting businesses on R&D expenses, and okaying new pension giveaways that will force local taxes higher. Plus, Hochul still backs the state's insane climate law, which will shoot up prices on just about everything. Even more, though she's been trying to delay some of the pain until after she's safely reelected. Voters are right. New York is certainly on the wrong track, and Trump didn't put it there. How damning that the woman in charge of the Empire State is trying to pretend it's his fault. All right, we got to wrap up. Get your last second comments in. We'll be right back.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
When you visit Carpenters, Phillips, and Flint's, our goal is to always make every family feel like they're at home. Our 3 locations each have their own unique qualities to them, so when a family comes to us at the time of need, we have the options.
Every family we serve is different, and what they're looking for is different. We have to be able to allow the family to tell their story, and everyone's story is unique to them.
Visit carpentersphillipsflint.com to learn more about our family-owned funeral homes.
Glass Back the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Saturday, May 23rd is Tracy's A Taylor Experience.
Welcome to our tribute to the Eras Tour.
Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Down and play, I'll write your name.
There, we're shaping up to have a wet and cool Wednesday. Temperatures staying a good 10 degrees below average with a high of 57, and showers throughout much of the day. Then overnight, we'll see most of the rain taper off by, say, 9 p.m. or so, with temperatures bottoming out in the mid and upper 30s, staying cool for our Thursday, upper 50s, additional showers possible in the afternoon. We'll see more rain chances as we head through Mother's Day.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Mark Wright said, no doubt Hochul won't take the blame for New York's problems as she created them. You're exactly right. Now, New York's power grid, as we talk about energy so often on this program, faces historically thin safety margins heading into the summer. Get ready for potential blackouts if the state experiences an extended heat wave, according to a new report from the New York State Independent Systems Operator. NYSO's president and CEO Rich Dewey said the state is anticipating an unprecedented shortfall in reserve power. Again, we are not ready for the supposed policies that they keep forcing down us, so it's costing us so much. But they're going to keep going for it. And it sounds like, as typical, Hochul's probably going to cave on her changes to the climate policy. So it should just prepare yourself. I want to just a couple quick things outside of New York, if I could. J.B. Pritzker, who also believes he's going to run for president. He's the governor of Illinois. He blamed Trump for the recent violent attacks on Trump. What? I know. I will say that one of the results of the current environment is that there are, because of all the political violence that's occurred, and we can talk about the causes of that, but because of that political violence, I think that the anti-Semites out there and the people who are racist, because they know that I stand up for communities of color, have come out of the woodwork and I receive threats. I'm sure that politicians across the country are receiving more threats than they have before. But I hear about it, and in particular, sometimes I hear them mention of my Judaism, right, of my religion. Look, our leaders set the tone in this country, and I think that the President of the United States has set a tone where political violence is okay. He's advocated it himself before. It's a terrible thing. He's experienced the other side of that. We've got to stand up against this. We need to be speaking out against political violence. I'm a big believer in it's okay to disagree, but not be disagreeable. Okay. Now, a caller confronted Charlemagne. We've talked about Charlemagne, the radio host, a lot, blaming the media rhetoric for the threats against Trump. The caller said the only thing that's changed is the way you all have radicalized the media against Donald Trump. That's why people are trying to kill him, because the media is pumping in their heads that this man is this and that and the third. But Charlemagne pushing back, saying assassination attempts against president isn't anything new. They somehow brought up the guy that threw a shoe at George W. Bush. I'm not really sure what that has to do with anything. Because the caller even said, I don't remember nobody trying to shoot his ear off. That's a lot different than throwing a shoe. The caller rejected the idea that the current tensions were unprecedented, arguing political hostility has long existed. I think America has always been this way. The only thing that's changed is the media and the propaganda. Now, Charlemagne said, we can't sit here and act like he isn't implementing policies that have made things worse. We have no business being at war in Iran. The caller said, we're acting like people weren't radicalized before. This isn't new. So I just thought that was interesting, a pushback blaming on the media. Okay. Oh, CNN said speaking of that, Trump's ballroom is becoming a political boondoggle. All right, we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to Connor Zilich for being on the show this morning. He's going to be racing pulling triple duty this weekend at Watkins Glen. Fridays, Bully Hill Vineyards 176 at the Glen, NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race, and Saturday's Mission 200 at the Glen, NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. So we thank him for being on the program. Chris Malpas on the program tomorrow. Friday, Joseph Hernandez, the state comptroller candidate, and then Joe Sempolinski, former congressman, current assemblyman. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early. We look forward to it already.
Get ready for Glass Fest, May 22nd through 24th. Brought to you by Chemung Canal Trust. Experience the magic of live glass blowing. From hands-on fun to incredible sights, there's something for everyone. Explore creations from local artisans. 3 days, one incredible celebration. Brought to you by Corning's Gaffer District. On Friday night, it's Drake White with John King opening. On Saturday, Tracy's A Taylor Experience. Join us for Glass Fest, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.